see, to use the strong to deal with the strong, and let those who can help gather around. In this way of thinking, the weak are completely in the way. It sounds like a lot, but the weak are relaxed. Yes, well, if the strong alone can solve the war, it will be a kind of happiness for the weak, but it is against my aesthetics to need so many sacrifices for the birth of the strong. Seeing the reactions of Gable and the others, Calgurio and Minute also had a bitter look on their faces. As a party, one can better understand how cruel and inhumane this practice is. In my opinion, Hakuru's opinion is important. War leaves those who want to fight and involves the weak in it, an act that is abhorrent to the core. But reality isn't as simple as talking, and the world is hard to predict. By the way, Yuki-chan has said that the Demon Lord Guy seems to be unhappy with the increase in the Imperial battle power as well. Why is the strongest guy so vigilant? It makes one wonder. Chidora suddenly remembered what it was like to say that. Indeed, as long as you have the ability to investigate, it's only natural that your attack will be effective against Guy, and that you will be alert. Guy's goal is to unify the world with the power of the Demon Lord, positively confronting empires. The stakes can be said to be completely stacked against each other. It's weird. Why, arrogant Guy, would you allow the empire to exist? Gathering the strong to fight might be more fun, but Guy was unexpectedly serious. It gives the impression that if one can act, one will immediately go out personally to wipe out the foolish ones. Diablo, Ultima, and Carrera spoke the doubts in their hearts. It was Testarossa who answered these questions. Quite simply, there is Lord Veilgrind in that place. To strike out against the Empire would most likely provoke Lord Veilgrind. That's why I'm so honest in the Empire. Upon hearing this, Calgurio gave a surprised look, while Minute whispered, "Is that called honesty?" Although I don't know what Testarossa is doing with the Empire, it is none of my business after all. To avoid even blaming me for the past, these things are ignored. What concerns me more is the name Veilgrind. The name is Veilgrind. Does it mean? What a surprise, Primordial White. No, Lady Testarossa, so much respect for the scorched dragon that dwells on the burning mountain of the gods. Testarossa was like, "What did you say?" The smile on her face looked at Minute, and Minute hastened to change his words to say so. This convinced me of what Veilgrind is really all about. She's one of only 4 dragon races in the world, the sister of Veldora, who is in charge of the Scorch. This is the real trump card of the Empire. It's not quite right to say respectfully, our relationship with the dragon race is a little more complicated. However, our Lord Rimuru is an ally with Lord Veldora, so isn't it only natural that I should pay my respects to Veldora's sister? That is to say, without my relationship with Veldora, then Testarossa wouldn't have any respect for the dragon race? So that means that Testarossa was so honest because she couldn't win against Veilgrind? Even so, can't you beat Guy? To say if you can win, you can't win, not mentioning Guy, I at least can't beat the dragon race. It's not a question of strength or weakness, but the fact that it's an indestructible existence like the true dragon race. Being spoken of as incomprehensible by the incomprehensible incarnation like Testarossa, the true dragon race really. If Veldora hears this, he will probably laugh out loud again, but never say such things in front of him. Yes, the true dragon race is not even a threat to Guy, but it's impossible to eliminate them, right? Woohoo, don't know. At least with magic, I don't think so. It's not a victory as long as you can't kill completely, that seems to be common sense among demons. If you say so, you really can't beat the dragon race. Remember what Veldora said. The dragon seed will come back to life even if it dies. Demons usually destroy their cores when they are destroyed, but the dragon race can still be resurrected, except that part of their memory and personality seems to be reset at that time. It is also possible that there are dragon race that keep their memories alive like the demon race. As the word goes, it is the feeling of being indestructible. Well, with a guy like that in the Empire, we can't attack at will. Whatever that guy is to Guy first, she's a threat to us. I repeatedly said tricky, 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 and Calgurio and others looked at each other with a confused face. It was then opened by Calgurio, with Minute, Jew and Bonnie beginning their statements. I'm sorry to be rude, but I have something to tell you. As far as I know, the Empire worships Lord Veilgrind as a guardian dragon, and through history, there are accounts of guarding the Empire from angelic attacks, but in the end, it was only because the Empire presented Lord Veilgrind with a tribute, begging her to grant it on a whim. That noble and beautiful true red dragon is the symbol of imperial prosperity. We, single digits, with the approval of His Majesty Rudra, are bound to visit that symbolic dragon and make it remember its name and face on the spot, saying that we will never be hostile to it. Indeed, I was in that ceremony, too. Hostility is impossible. It's not an existence that can be earned. There was a connection between the Empire and Veilgrind, but the Empire side couldn't seem to ask her to do anything. Also, Bonnie's reaction makes one wonder a bit. Not somewhat, being super very concerned. Well, you can keep quiet if you don't want to talk. Which side do you think would win if you fought Veilgrind, the marshal you were talking about? Hey? To put it another way, it's still a guess, but there's always a similarity between the two. Have you ever felt that way? How can? Bonnie understood what I was saying and was about to joke, but immediately turned into a serious expression. Beside Bonnie, Jew paled in thought. It doesn't feel wrong. The true face of the marshal is Veilgrind, the scorched dragon. It can't be wrong. That's the reason why Demon Lord Guy didn't attack the Empire, was because of Veilgrind's existence, and I'm afraid that there were threats within the Empire that could rival Veilgrind's, and if that wasn't the case, there would be no reason for Guy to not act. I turned my gaze to the big screen and sighed. Alas, a rash attack would irritate Veilgrind, and sending an army would most likely be annihilated in one breath. It's an extremely reckless strategy to attack together with Yuki. Sure enough, intelligence is really important. Fortunately, the first to notice the presence of Veilgrind collected his feet before stepping on a landmine, and as much as it was tempting to win the peace with the Empire, it would have been foolish to launch a counterattack by us. With Lord Veldora's sister as an opponent, none of us could have won. Shall we ask Lord Veldora to come? From Benimaru's presentation. As weak as it sounds, this is the result of calm judgment. The so-called true dragon is beyond the existence of the gods, and it would be a failure to see the reality if it was won by the delusion. Well, how shall I put it? We don't want to involve Veldora in our affairs. And I don't want to have Veldora fighting his own sister, so it's better not to ask him for help. In that case, it is very difficult to know what to do in the future. I'm going to pass this information on to Yuki as well. The Legion sent out can't just stay put. Yeah. It's necessary to completely rework the strategy, and it's not okay to not contact Yuki. My mind is racing with thoughts. At this point, Diablo, the child in question, dropped a bomb. It looks like this has something to do with Guy too, so I called him in. He'll be here soon, so let's ask the guy together when the time comes. Huh? I couldn't help but have a serious expression on my face as I repeatedly stared at Diablo. Seeing his shy expression, I couldn't help but sprout some killing intent. At a time when it is so distressing, this idiot is doing something so redundant. Already. Yes. Yes? I'm angry, but it can't be ignored. Anyway, I broke up the meeting to prepare for Guy's visit. Guy arrived with a look of displeasure. Yo, here I come. But then again, it was a big deal to call me over. You're right. But alas, the words are still hopefully spoken not to me, but to Diablo. Guy sat down roughly in his chair. To keep Guy's mood from getting any worse, it might have been a bit reckless to take him to the lavish reception room in the VIP room. The reception depends on the guest. This was originally a noble hotel only used to receive princes and nobles. It's a lot to lose if you mess around. The furnishings in this room were selected and decorated by Myo Mile, whose aesthetic abilities are recognized. There are also artworks of considerable value that have been brought in from various countries. Most of them catered to my taste, not so much for luxury, but more for elegant furnishings, and you can tell that my Omal has good taste in making people feel quiet and empty. It's still a long way to go for Rigid to reach this realm. There's very little access to art, and I don't think it's that easy to understand the good and bad of things. However, there is a saying of Rigid that this is a place where one can feel inner peace. In that case, it's possible that we are unexpectedly like-minded. Let's leave it at that for now, and let's talk about it if Guy goes on a rampage. Since there were no other suitable reception rooms, we had to hold back even a certain amount of damage. In any case, something as desperate as bringing the strongest demon Lord Guy to an ordinary reception room is beyond my ability to do. The chair made a small, creaking sound. It's made of incense wood, the highest grade of wood. Although the soft sofa is nice, it seems as if the wooden chair that withstands everything is quite comfortable to sit on. There is a feeling of being surrounded by the forest and being at one with nature. It would be nice to let Diablo make amends if it's bad, and to have the others dismissed in advance, I thought with relief. Getting the Imperial forces back to the 70th floor, Gable took on the role of guide, with the plan being for Adelman to do the job of looking after them during his absence. Sue was preparing for Masayuki's escort matter. Rigid is in charge of contacting various departments in order to make the urban part of the labyrinth where the shelter is located run more smoothly. After consulting with Vesta, Kaijin will convey the contents of the previous meeting to King Garzel. Since there is no intention to hide it, I will also be in contact with King Garzel afterwards. After that, Jidora was exchanging information with Yuki, and I felt that it was necessary to inform each other of the current situation even for the purpose of formulating a future policy. Gopta and Hakuru, I told them to stay in the other room. Just in case, the trio of demon women stood by together. Because there was no telling what these three would do, it was better to keep them out of Guy's presence. Keeping them elsewhere is also an insurance measure based on this consideration. With that, there were 4 people heading to the reception room. Me, the culprit Diablo, and then Benimaru and Shion. Guy, on the other hand, led the way with 3 women on the stage. Sitting next to Guy was a female with similar looks to Milim. The lustrous, soft white hair refracted the light, like a sparkling lake. The deep blue of those eyes is as if they are going to take one's breath away, a stunning beauty, but from a different point of view it feels a bit childish, a woman who is incredible. Judging by the way she didn't care that Guy sat down naturally, there was no up and down relationship between the two. That is, the two are on the same level of existence, and such existence is extremely limited, right? I'm afraid she is. This is the first time you've seen each other. I'll introduce you, Rimuru, this is Veldora's sister, Velzado. She's been called White Ice Dragon more often than not, so let's remember them both. Greetings, Demon Lord Rimuru, my name is Velzado. Do you know anything about Velzado, the White Ice Dragon? My brother seems to have been under your care, so I thought I'd stop by and say hello. No mistake. She is the sister of Veldora, one of the strongest of the dragon race. Velzado the White Ice Dragon. The graceful greeting was beautiful. Elegantly seated in a chair with a picturesque figure. She seems to be very satisfied with the woody aroma. But, although she showed a civilized smile, my back seemed to be sweating coldly. I look at Veldora every day and think I have a deep knowledge of the dragon race, but this guy is not good. It's better to say it's as if the existence of the otherworld is so dangerous for women. I think his control of demon chi is perfect, but seeing Velzado in front of him, I have to admit that he is still too naive. The one in front of him was extremely natural, controlling her demonic chi. From not feeling any aura at all, it was enough to glimpse her extremely high level of control. If she hadn't made the introduction, I would never have realized that she was a dragon. I'm afraid I'll treat her like a human being without any doubt. However, her beauty and dominance cannot be hidden, and she will not be underestimated. Ah, Greetings, my name is Raimuru, and I'm a monster for now. I'm the one, always being helped by your brother. Why I can only say such words. And then why is the King of Wisdom also silent this time? One side felt irrational and the other was careful to remain conciliatory in its response. Geez, that's modest. Don't be so defensive of the kid. As if pleased, Velzado giggled. As soon as she began to laugh, her calm and collected aura suddenly dissipated, turning into the image of a cute girl. Honestly, she looks like an all-girls high school student. Once again there is a strong recognition of her blood relationship with Milim. The heaviness eased, thanks to this smile. The pleasantries continued, introducing each other to their respective members. The other two, one was the green primordial Mizari, whom I had met, and the other was the blue primordial Rhine, whom I was first meeting. Dressed as usual in a dark red maiden's outfit, she waited unmoving behind Guy. I had heard that Diablo and her belonged to the same level of existence, but that gesture of taking a step back made it impossible to see that it was so. Even so, there was no mistaking the fact that she was a primordial, the strongest being in the demon race, a being beyond the reach of ordinary demon masters. In order not to make a bad response, it's better to greet them carefully. With such determination, the presentation was concluded with caution. Benimaru, who was sitting next to me, was okay and still a bit nervous when introducing Shion. By the time we get to Diablo, it's practically the same mood as handling a bomb. Why did I choose these few? Even now it's a hindrance to reflect on it. As everyone was almost seated, I asked for a guide to prepare the tea. Shuna understood what I meant and finished her job without faltering. No, it wasn't just Shuna, all the waiters didn't care what status the person they were serving was in, going about their business as usual. It's all become professional. It's all the result of Vesta's rigorous workouts. Drinking the tea brought up by them, I took a break and began to move to the main topic. I didn't ask you to come here today for anything else. I have something I want to ask Guy. Oh? It's true, we managed to repel the Imperial invasion. Then, I thought we'd take it this time, but I heard that there's Veilgrind on the Empire side. Your sister is there too. And, putting a lot of information together and judging by it, I don't think there's a karma or something between you and the Empire. Oh, well, I'm glad you could see that. After listening to my instructions, Guy seemed to have a happy sly smile. There's only a bad feeling about it already. While sincerely not wanting to go on asking, it's not possible to do so. You're just trying to get in the way of the Empire's war power, aren't you? That's what keeping Yuki alive is all about, right? I'm sure you mean it when you say you don't want to destroy the Western countries, but it's more than that, right? You said game and all that. Who are you playing against? Although he cares, he acts like he doesn't care. However, if there was a Veilgrind on the Imperial side, or even a hidden threat on its equal, then one could not help but ask. If I attacked without figuring it out, there was a good chance that my companions would show up fallen. I looked Guy straight in the eyes and asked out the words. Kakakuk, well, that's a good move, so let me tell you. Guy didn't put on any pretense and answered very candidly. I felt that instead it was scary and listened honestly to his explanation. Actually, I made a bet with some asshole. The guy hangs onto ideals that are too outrageous to be true, so I told him what's realistic. We did not choose to fight outright, but to use the pieces in our respective hands to decide the winner. In other words, is it the same thing to let someone other than yourself fight and win by knocking out all of the opponent's pieces? The pawn in your hand refers to? Even without asking, it was vaguely noticeable. Well, it's you people. That's right. I feel the same way. As much as it was tempting to ask Guy to stop casually using people as pawns, there was no point in ranting here. Then I'll just ask for some useful information. So, the man you're competing with is the Emperor of the Empire, right? Shouldn't get it wrong, but just make sure. Since it's Velzado sitting next to Guy, then it's definitely the game's opponent sitting next to Veilgrind. But that person wasn't necessarily the Emperor either, so the right answer had to come from Guy's mouth. Exactly. The Emperor of the Empire, Rudra, is a rival with whom I identify. No point in hiding it, Guy told me happily. Since it could be said to be his own opponent, this Rudra couldn't be a strong man who could rival Guy, right? You can't win this one. Few things can be more annoying than participating in a game where you can't see the winning side. May I speak? While I was hurting my brain, Benimaru, who was sitting next to me, spoke without fear, and squarely in the presence of Guy. Yeah. Then allow me to ask, what are the winning conditions for this game? Was it necessary to defeat Emperor Rudra? Or is it just a matter of suppressing all his pieces? I hope you can help me with this. That's really important. I've always thought that the condition of victory was that one had to defeat Rudra, and if one took the pawns, that is to say, one could win by disintegrating the Empire's side of the battle. There are a lot of tricky guys out there, but it's better to be a rival than a guy on the same level as Guy. Q-foo-fa-foo-fa-foo-fa-foo-fa-foo-fa-foo. Idiot. You are. I couldn't help but reprimand loudly, even overlapping with Guy's rant. It's exhausting, really. Guy and I were in the same mood, and we both nodded at each other involuntarily. Didn't expect to be able to relate to Guy's heart in this matter, and only thanked Diablo on this point. But this kind of statement that is likely to piss off Guy is also a big demerit item to drop the score significantly. Anyway, I'll tell Diablo to shut up for now. Then, Guy. How about answering Benimaru's question? Although I asked Guy so, Guy didn't answer, just looked at me. The moment a smile flicked at the corner of his mouth, my sense of danger pulled the alarm full force at me. Rimuru-kun? Wahoo! Super unsettling forebodings. This is already not a premonition grade anymore. I seem to understand the reason for the instantly subtle expressions on the faces of Myomal and Veldora when they added the word kun to their names when I called them. Because I definitely have the same look on my face now. Actually, I'd like to ask you something. I refuse. Oh, listen to this. I'm just saying, you listen to me. As much as it was tempting to say it, the other person was Guy. It's not a good idea to anger this brutal opponent, and from my standpoint, I can only listen honestly. You see that Myomal, despite his subtle expression, is still happy to respond to me, and it's my turn to say no with all my might. I want you to stop that bastard Rudra. I wouldn't say it's as hard as letting you take him down, you just have to figure out a way to deal with the pawns and make sure I win. Guy's expression couldn't have been more evil. He got up from his chair and went around to my back, giving me a shoulder squeeze as he talked. You'll do it, won't you? The hand that rubbed my shoulder increased in strength. A threat, right? What would I gain by accepting this offer? Since you can't say no, you have to get more out of it. It may have been reckless to target Guy, but I did my best to negotiate anyway. I say, it's because of you that the balance of the world I'm running is falling apart. What do you think about that? I'm sorry. It was over in a flash. It's true that I'm the one who took away most of the battle power from Guy's side, even though it's to build a new balance, and I'm working on it. To put it more bluntly, it would be inappropriate to send the Demon Girl trio to our camp. If Guy is rejected here, even I might be treated as an enemy. There's no way around it. I gave up resistance and accepted Guy's offer. Guy returned to his seat just in time for the sound of a knock on the door. The door to the room opened and Shuna entered. The aroma of black tea filled the room, and the tension thinned. The tray was also topped with a cake, so I decided to go into break time. Since you can't get away with it, then be aware that this is definitely not putting off the problem. As if tea had been prepared for the next room as well, 2 secretaries and 2 maids went over there. Expecting them to be reluctant, they went straight through it more honestly than expected. I took a sip of the black tea made with care. Soft texture. The tea made by Testarossa was perfectly finished, but the black tea made by Shuna was very relaxing and had a different flavor. Ho ho, isn't that pretty good? Guy looks content, that's better than anything. Ah, really? This cake is not just sweet, but the layers all have different flavors fused together for a rich and layered texture. The aroma is great, but the bitterness adds to the sweetness. I'm relieved if Velzado-san also makes a positive comment. Also, the room is furnished in a style that is to my liking. Unexpectedly, Guy also made a compliment. Because this guy is a tyrant, I took the liberty of thinking he had nothing to do with idle elegance. It seems that one cannot make judgments about people based on preconceived notions, and this requires introspection. Come to think of it, the likes of Oda Nobunaga and others have such interests. Since you prefer a tea room where you don't have to worry about your status, you probably value time for introspection. Then again, although I took the liberty of misinterpreting Guy's interest, it seemed right to bring him here. I am slightly reassured to speak in order to see the reaction that follows. Ah, is that so? It's great that you're the first guest to visit here to your taste. This room is a top-of-the-line parlor and only brings people here when they need to fill the doorway. Ah? Are you trying to make a fool out of me? Yeah, right. If they didn't do that, where would the Demon Lord be? If you want to give up your glory, why don't you just hide in the shadows and live happily in secret from the beginning? First use the jab to draw the opponent. Demonstrator will not to take him at his word before Guy says the commission. Based on the response, it was necessary to change the response to Guy. But Guy smiled at my overreaction. Ah ha ha. And me, prying into each other's minds? You're so funny. It wasn't fun at all, and I felt toyed with by Guy. That's very kind of you. Never mind, I'll let the trouble go. While this is my request, it is not unrelated to you. I want to continue the war and destroy the Empire just like that. Speaking of which, Guy gracefully sipped the black tea. Modestly, like a king who doesn't know where. No, because it's a demon lord, let's call it a king. But Guy, this guy, threw a straight ball over. That is, make Rudra's pawn 0 without killing Rudra? I had that feeling when you stammered to answer Benimaru's question. That's it. There is no strict definition of victory conditions for the game, although they are. The only thing that was decided was the rule that players can't shoot each other directly. An opponent admits defeat or death, and the inability to continue the game can be considered victory conditions, right? Yeah, that's it. With the black tea still in his mouth, Guy nodded. That is, the Emperor Rudra and Guy seem to have fought for over 2,000 years. There was a struggle, but no direct showdown. There had been several fights before that, but since the birth of Milim and the disappearance of Veldenava, the Star King Dragon, the two had become more restrained. The battle between the two had an excessive impact on the world and then unconsciously turned into not taking out full strength to fight, which was part of the reason. The topic went a bit far, but looking at the key in front of me I knew it wasn't scary. The struggle continues to this day. Guy keeps the world in balance while increasing the number of pawns in his hand. It seemed like there were a lot of long-lived magical creatures among them, and Guy was slowly waiting for them to evolve. However, there was no one among the 8-star demon lords who knew Guy's true heart. Even Milim had no idea about the game that Guy and Rudra were playing. Well, why talk to me? Ah? Of course I would. You're the first one to push Rudra to this point. Needless to say, Guy was aware of the fact that the Imperial army was annihilated. Of course, so spectacularly big was the continuous unleashing of magic that it would be strange for Guy not to notice. But you, all kills are right, that Rudra Boy's pieces didn't increase. Sure enough, did Guy also know Rudra's purpose for this operation? Heard the right facts from Guy's mouth. Rudra's aim was fruitful, to use defeat as a trial to allow the survivors to evolve. Making the case for making it acceptable to the subjects, training the army and then having them face the threat head-on, identifying the evolved from the survivors, Is that Rudra's basic tactic? The proof is that although the last Imperial expeditionary force was swept away by Veldora, some of them evolved into immortals. Guy has adopted the same strategy. The unawakened had no value as a pawn, and it was precisely because Guy was of that mindset that he acquiesced to the feud between the monsters. The more people who awaken as true demon lords, the more beneficial they will be in the game. With this as a premise, the remaining question is the point at which the showdown will be initiated. This side is more powerful than the other, that moment of certainty is the moment of victory and defeat. It's unexpectedly hard to do that, and there are times when people get in the way, and so far there's been an ongoing fight without a winner being drawn. Because this is the long-term plan for growth, both Rudra and Guy are patient. Causing a lot of trouble for the people who live in this world, but just passing the time for these two. This time too, if dozens of people had survived with Veldora as their opponent, there should be an awakening among them. That is, Rudra doesn't hold me in his eyes, and Guy treats me as an excellent pawn. It's a bit disheartening, but it's the truth. So, I'm going to use this gap to attack the Empire? Do what you want. I don't need to say it, but you know there's no point in fighting in vain. Indeed, it goes without saying. If a show of force to an adversary fails to pose a threat to them, it only adds to the number of victims and makes no strategic sense, and the option of sending troops should be rejected. If you know, I'd like to know if there are any of Rudra's men of whom we must be on guard. Who knows, I just focus on my hand exercise. If I'm the strongest, then it doesn't matter how strong or weak the other hand is. What an arrogant statement befitting a strong man's identity. This guy, that's the type. In a game like Mahjong, do not look at the type of opponent how to round the cards themselves. Then, when it feels like you can win easily, you just blithely and a servant full. However, if it's just luck, it's heaven and peace by luck, so you don't want to be an opponent either way. The topic of the game made me start making strange associations, but let's get to the point. Either way, we and the Empire must distinguish between right and wrong. Not because of your commission, I will act on my convictions. Since the issue could not be put aside as it went on, it was necessary to have a conversation with Emperor Rudra. Then it would be wise to wait until this side is in a favorable position before raising the conversation with the other side. Lord Rimuru, are you going to go there yourself? Benimaru seemed a little surprised, but there was no giving in here. It can't be helped. We should also not be able to kill Yuki, but we should meet with him and aim for harmony under favorable conditions. Isn't it dangerous? It's dangerous no matter what. Suppose, even if someone had made a treaty of peace in the past, would you believe it? I won't. It was definitely a ploy to get me careless. When I was out for a leisurely walk, assassins would take this opportunity to assassinate me. If that happens, I'll have to be on guard all the time, and I won't be able to achieve my goal of a leisurely life. I don't want to be like that and have to be done with it. Yeah, me too. What about the guards? Of course, it's you. Benimaru smiled innocently in response to my words. Then I'm okay with that. I could tell from his attitude that there was a confidence inside that he could protect me. Sure enough, Benimaru is reliable. Guy looked at my conversation with Benimaru and thought it was funny and laughed. Ah ha ha. You're fun to watch and the ministry is delightful, too. There's also an air of wonder that feels like there's room for evolution. That's it. Benimaru is the right hand whom I rely on the most. Oh, so it wasn't Diablo? Ah, that guy is strong, but what can I say, he's a problematic person. I get it. I felt like I was being pitied by Guy. And there's a sense of being treated as a companion. Watching his reaction, I understood that Guy was having a hard time too. So, I have one thing I want to confirm. What is it? That Rudra, can you give ultimate skills to others? I asked, and then Guy narrowed his eyes in admiration. I'm glad you found out. As you say, Rudra has an interesting stunt of being able to lend his power to others. Really? So, do you know the terms of the loan? This is a very important thing. If only Guy knew what the conditions were, he could narrow down the range of characters on the Imperial side that needed to be guarded. It is now judged to be less than 10, but it's not good to be completely convinced that this is it. Don't worry. The Guy's powers are not all powerful. What can be borrowed is degraded and limited power. As for the receiver of the lending, by the way, they must at least be awakened and able to serve as a vessel of power. It seems there are conditions I don't know about that aren't that threatening. Just by chance, I tried to ask, and Guy responded crisply. That way, all the information I want to know is gathered. That's how it is. There's no threat to holding ultimate skills, you're the only one who can say that. I really wanted to shout it out like that. Milim could be one of Guy's kind too. That difference in feeling might complicate matters. Looking at Guy's delicious tasting cake, I feel a little angry just thinking about it. I was irritated by the lack of content and expressions, and even more irritated by the fact that I was handed the assignment as if it was none of my business. Give me a minute it's supposed to be talking about something pretty important right now. However, it seems that the house is already filled with the atmosphere of the end of close talks. I was so upset that I stabbed a fork at my own cake as well. When thinking about things, it's important to supplement with sugar. I decided not to get carried away by Guy and calm down to compile the information. A time of silence. Soft atmosphere. But things should have been over, but Guy had no intention of going back. Shuna briefly filled Guy's empty cup with tea. This seems to be a spare teapot to prevent the remaining tea leaves from brewing. You're good at what you do. The nerds in my family can't do that. I'm honored to receive your compliment. Benimaru looked a little worried, but Shuna was blunt. Not being overwhelmed by Guy's aura, calmly making a counterpart. Can my Mizari and Rhine come to you for a while? Practice? Right, I want you to teach them how to make this cake. They had eaten their dishes at the Demon Lord's banquets, and they were of a decent standard, but it was Shuna that was superior in dessert. After all, she and Yoshida had been competing for the development of new works, and the craft was getting better and better. I thought it was commonplace, but only now do I remember that it is quite extravagant. That being said, I now have a good sense that I have been doing whatever I want so far in this world. Things like recreating favorite things, tasting delicious food, etc. Sometimes, even with enthusiasm and skill, you can't reproduce a recipe if you can't get the ingredients together. Even someone as talented as Yoshida succeeded in reproducing this kind of cake only after having the quality liquor produced in our country. In this case, do not forget to have gratitude. Put this aside beforehand, how do I reply to Guy? At first, I thought I'd buy it if I wanted to, but there's no need to be so petty about it. With that thought in mind, I decided to hide the part that Yoshida-san taught and just teach him the recipes we developed. Shuna-chan, can you teach the two next door how to make it? Yes, with pleasure. You have to use good ingredients to make food, so let's make a deal on that in the future. Granulated sugar, for example, also has to be refined to reduce impurities and thus increase purity. My preoccupation with delicious food, coupled with the technical abilities of Kaijin and the others, have managed to achieve a quality not inferior to that of my previous life. Although the production is not high enough to circulate in the market, the amount left for your own enjoyment is sufficient. Just add a little more production and distribute it to Guy. Is that really possible? Of course. This is true. Technology aside, I don't skimp on the finished product. I'm worried that even Guy will be in and out of the country, and the trouble will increase, but if Mizari is able to use the transfer door, she will be fine. Our side should not have to think about handling as long as we have the materials ready. Then, I had other intentions. If Guy thinks we are useful, the security of our country can be assured. The deeper the dealings with foreign countries, the more security will be assured. If there is a mutual need, there will be no indiscriminate use of force to hinder development. The economic circle is tantamount to a strong military alliance. That's been my consistent view. I don't want to get into a dispute with Guy, so it's better to have more cards in hand. After all, this was my first opponent who put his heart into it. No, the second time since I met Veldora, right? It doesn't matter if you can win or not, if you do fight it will create problems that can't be solved. There will undoubtedly be actual damage, so I intend to respect Guy's opinion as long as nothing major happens. There is such a thing as a rather messy move like this one can only accept it in silence. Only, there are limits to this. Judging by the few conversations so far, Guy isn't the uncommunicative tyrant that one might think he is. He was unexpectedly a rational, reasonable man. His manipulative side is also evident in his counterpart Diablo. I believe he has recognized our usefulness and will not make unreasonable demands. So, it's almost time to go back, right? My little wish, as Guy's words dissolved into nothingness. Wait a minute. I have one thing I want to ask you before I go back. What? What else is going on? What is it? Why has Diablo evolved? Surprise. Was it still too naive to think it wasn't discovered? That's why I hate observant guys. Well, this one is. What to do? What's the answer to Guy to accept? It's not just Diablo, right? Since those people were inside Ramirez's labyrinth, it took a bit of work to scent, but why are there so many people here who have awakened as the true demon lord? Guy asked me with a smirk, but there was absolutely no smirk in his eyes. This probably can't just be stonewalled. Answer. This is the result of the Master's experiments with the power of Beelzebub, the king of gluttony. No problem in asserting this. Here comes the voice of heaven.
Okay, that's it.
Not bad for a king of wisdom, and at such a reliable time. Actually, I made many attempts on my own strength as I wondered if I could strengthen my battle strength to battle the Empire. And then it became clear that my powers had an interesting effect. Ooh oh. What is the effect? What is the effect? I don't know. Tell me about it, teacher king of wisdom. Answer. If the soul is reduced to energy and given to a person who has the qualifications for awakening, and if this is the case, then the person named, Guy Crimson, is acceptable. That's just the way it is. Indeed, the ritual of evolution is not the power of the king of wisdom, but the use of the power of the king of gluttony. Thus, this account does not hide anything, but merely states the facts. Indeed, that may be the right response. My power of the king of gluttony is able to restore the soul of man to energy. Then, there is also the ability to give energy to others. Just giving energy to someone who is not qualified is a pointless act. Does it mean that the person who becomes a demon lord will be able to awaken? That's awesome. Because there was no lie, Guy accepted it before he had heard it all. This is all due to the king of wisdom.
It's okay.
The war in this world is more about quality than quantity, right? Improving one's abilities is par for the course. That's right. You've cared a lot about it since the old days, but you're not ordinary, are you? Huh? I'm very ordinary. No, ordinary slimes don't talk. Even if it doesn't matter, the means of Veldora or the state of the city's development, whatever it is, it's not ordinary. You're a reincarnationist, aren't you? Didn't you know? I died in a world different from this one, and I was reborn as a slime with my consciousness. Really? Really? Guy and I looked at each other. It turns out he didn't know. I thought this was already known. I didn't make it a secret, it's well known in the West, and I thought Guy had the situation under control. The idea that the other party knows all the information seems to be a bit of a problem too. While that's not exactly an understatement, it's something to be aware of in the future. It's important to be careful not to give away information in a rambling situation. Really? Yeah, the real thing. Lord Raimuru doesn't lie. Hey, why are you so suspicious? in person, and confirming something to Benimaru and Shuna. Ah ha 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 ha. That's awesome. I thought it was clearly a magical creature, but it was so strange, so it was. It's rare to be reborn across the world, but you're unlucky to be reborn as a magical creature. Guy giggled. You don't have to talk so laughingly. But in that case I can accept it. The nucleus of the heart, of course, is tempered by the fact that the soul alone passes through the world and retains its ego and memory. I also understand why you're obsessed with human looks, and it's possible to evolve at an abnormal rate to gain ultimate abilities. To sum it up, is my heart strong? Also, I consider myself rather cheeky. Don't give up, don't get discouraged, keep moving forward is my credo. Now you can take it, can't you? Ah, I used to think you were a strange guy, but I think I can trust you now. How rude. But I forgive you, because I can't beat you. Besides, it is much better than being constantly suspected of hostility. This is the model for looking forward. Now that my suspicions are cleared, and I've asked what I wanted to ask, I should probably go back. I'll have another one of these.
Okay, go ahead.
Trying to get him to hurry back, just as I was about to open my mouth, Guy interrupted and cheekily asked for a second cake. Shuna blandly responded. Couldn't help it, I followed suit and asked for one. I want to be healed from the sweetness of the cake. Though I thought so, Guy wasn't about to leave me alone. Say, Rimuru. Let's get back to what we just talked about. I know, it's definitely a bad thing. What topic? You've awakened your men. Based on the instructions I just gave, if I asked if you could give my subordinates points with your power, how about that? Is it actually feasible? This guy. Do I look like me? For example, use what you can, and use what you can. I thought I'd been careless when I'd finished, so I was followed up with a straightforward question. No, I'm not as outspoken as he is, like I can't assert that. Alas, I care about that and lose. More than that, Guy's question must be answered. Right now. Answer. It's possible. Without waiting for me to ask a question in my mind, the answer was given. Always felt a little lonely. I feel like the King of Wisdom has the intention of dealing with my troubles. Answer. No such intention. It seems to be slightly angry. It's not good to keep pissing off the King of Wisdom. I can only rely on the King of Wisdom, and it would be bad to be abandoned by the King of Wisdom. So, seriously ask.
I don't have any contact with Guy's subordinates in the soul corridors, is that okay?
Answer. Yes. Even if it is not a magical creature connected to the genealogy of the soul, forced intervention is possible. The prerequisite is that the creature give up resistance, and that it has the qualifications for awakening to give energy that will enable it to evolve. Got it? That, then, leaves the question. I hold the number of souls. I don't know how many of his men he wanted to awaken, but it would be impossible to talk without the key part. Should be fine. I just don't know without trying it, though probably, it's no problem. However, I no longer have the energy I can part with, to deny him in a noble manner, without angering Guy. I actually had 100,000 left, but Guy didn't seem to be able to confirm the amount I was holding, which he would have given up by now. Oh. So you can do it by giving you souls, right? That. No sense in giving up? In fact, I've given Mizari about 10,000 of them. But there was no reaction, no sign of awakening, and I thought it would be useless. Giving a soul directly, that's something the demon race would do. But can't this be awakening? Answer. What drives evolution is the need to transform the soul into a form that fits the object. Simply by giving, the souls cannot be used effectively. Moreover, the efficiency of energy given by others is so low that the effective value is only about 10%. I see. To get the demon lord seed to germinate, water it in the right way. But even knowing the right way to do it, Whether it can be done or not is another matter. Would it be better, then, for the ministers to awaken autonomously? Answer: no. The nature of a magical creature named by a higher being will change. Even if one gains a soul by himself, one cannot awaken. That is, the evolutionary path is severed from the moment it is named. Is that what it is? Just trying to qualify is hard, and there's an unexpected catch. However, most magical creatures don't qualify and basically evolve by naming, so it's hard to say whether it's good or bad. In short, the nature of the named magical creature will change, so you can't draw the energy that suits you from the acquired soul. Guy didn't know that either, and the King of Wisdom's erudition was truly admirable. The name of the teacher is true to its name. Oops, no. I was praising it from the bottom of my heart, but it seemed like I was being hailed as a hoot. Since we already know how to answer Guy's question, let the conversation continue. Miss Mizari is, have you tried anyone else, that is to say, Miss Rhine? I told you to call them whatever you want, it's not a permit, it's an order. I'll call her that next time. So, you're the one who named those two, right? I can't believe you know that. Yes, I did. That's why. Ah? If you are named by a higher being, your nature seems to change. That's what happened. So, it means that no matter how many souls are given, it's useless. Then, can you match the nature of your opponent and give them the right energy? While it was clear that I had to struggle to understand all these instructions, Guy understood them very quickly. And, it's all correct without error. That's about it. Well, I have something I want to ask you. I just knew it would turn out this way. Gradually, I came to understand Guy's character. Although Guy's words sounded like a plea to me, they definitely didn't think about the possibility of my refusal. As much as I wanted to say no outright, it was too scary for me to do. At this point in time, I'm very fond of myself, so I have no choice but to listen to Guy's wishes. Let me be clear, even if you have enough souls, you can't evolve without qualification. No problem, both meet the conditions for awakening. So, you, come and awaken them. Guy made this assessment of both of them, too much scum to be of much use if that's all it is. There seems to be something odd about Guy's standard of judgment. As far as I know, Mizari and Rhine are supposed to be on the same level of primordial as the Testarossa and girls. Is it a lack of consideration to say that such a person would be useless? The more I think about it, the more uncomfortable it is to think that there is a fool next to me who will incite Guy. Hey, forget it. All that remains is the question of whether there are enough souls. The only two people to be awakened are Mizari and Rhine, right? Right. So, how many souls does it take? If one were to awaken oneself, it would be only 10,000, but the number of subordinates contacted through the soul corridor would be 10 times greater, 100,000. This time it was an unrelated third party and could only be considered even less efficient. In that case, the necessary quantity is. Answer: 500,000. 500,000? One person needs 250,000 of them. This is the usual times 25, and the comparison with the magic creatures in the soul corridor is also 2.5 times. This. A very large number, and since the King of Wisdom said so, it must be so much. I think if there are 500,000 more, that's enough. Huh? Is that all right? Then I don't have to kill any more, the amount that exists is enough. Surprisingly. So, what do you want if that's not enough? Oh, really? That's really, really good. I could only laugh dryly. If it's going to come to that, I'm going to have to scramble to stop Guy. Thankfully things didn't turn out that way, but the thought of so many casualties so far makes me feel very mixed. If the values are different, then I have nothing to say. I silently pray that no conflict of interest will arise in the future. Benimaru and Shuna listened very nervously to my conversation with Guy. I don't think there is any need to hide the conversation with Guy from these two. That's the way it is, get the guests. And by the way, there's Xion and Diablo. Guy was in a happy mood, eating his cake. This is the third one. Seems very much in his heart. After giving me 500,000 souls, he took on the attitude as if his work was over. Although the King of Wisdom confirmed that the conditions were in place, I felt unable to release it because I was narrow-minded. Just as I was thinking about it, Shuna brought Mizari and Rhine back. It's not bad, Lord Rimuru, it's a very good cake. I'm very grateful for your unstinting efforts to give us the recipe. Mizari's gushing praise and Rhine's acknowledgement. It seemed that they had communicated well, and they kept their manners to Shuna. Just so you can be happy, then you cannot play the boring game of betting on the world. I think the world is really full of amazing things. These two were perfect as maids. They don't have the devastating taste that Xion does, and they seems to learn new techniques quickly. But until then, the ritual of evolution must be performed. I received your words of thanks. I hope we can work together in the future. Work with each other, that's what's important.
I wish there was a good understanding that a one-sided act is not okay.
Hey, it looks like Rimuru will grant you guys the power to give me a little more thanks. You too. I swallowed the words and flashed a smile at the two girls. One thing to watch out for in evolution is that it is expected to induce a kind of slumber called a harvest festival. It's hard to go back in that state, so you can stay here for a few days. Guy and them used Mizari's transfer door to get outside the labyrinth. Then got permission from Ramirez to be entertained inside the maze. After the ritual of evolution begins, it will be difficult to go back. I don't think Guy will take the two back gently, so I plan to prepare the room well. And is this good? No problem. So, you guys send Guy and Miss Velzado back first. That's what I'm all about. The bargaining has gone off without a hitch, and I think it's almost time for Guy to retire. On. I'll take those two back, don't worry about giving them strength quickly. Guy's unexpected reaction made me involuntarily let out a sound. And it wasn't just me. Mizari and Rhine, who were the parties involved, also showed shocked expressions. This look on their faces told the history of what Guy had never done for them. That being said, Guy had his own considerations. Honestly, it's a pain in the ass. I didn't want Guy to see my power and wanted him to hurry back. Then, at this point, something occurred to me. I used to think I had similarities to Guy, but maybe it's actually the exact same. If it were me, I would also observe what the other person is doing and let the King of Wisdom see if a reenactment is possible. Even if it cannot be reproduced, information must be obtained to formulate countermeasures. From this point of view, it's possible that Guy was thinking the same thing. All the more reason then for me to avoid exposing the undercard to Guy. That said, isn't it already exposed? Answer. There is no problem, only the King of Gluttony is revealed as ordered, the rest is hidden. Truly the King of Wisdom. That is, even Guy can fool the King of Wisdom if it's handed to him. The estimate is that there is no exposure, but it's not to be careless either. Therefore, I hope no more information will be leaked. No, you're welcome. There are many more rooms, so don't worry, just stay. There's no backing down here. Guy's purpose was no doubt to observe my abilities. Can't stand to have only me expose hand cards and get Guy out of here no matter what. Guy and I laughed and faced each other, while darkly engaging in an intense psychological battle. Just at this time, the door to the room was slammed open. I found you, Rimuru. I want you to come out again. Yeah. People are also helping to monitor what's going on in the world. Veldora and Ramirez looked pleased. However, there are very important conversations going on right now, and hopefully they can see the atmosphere. Besides, that's a room used for war, not your playground, is it? It's still during the war, but you guys are just using the big screen to investigate where to play. There are as many things to say as there are mountains. But, the reason is on me, and I can't complain. Go play when the war is over, I've said that glibly before. After that, the two started discussing where to play. The two had lived a long life, but unexpectedly had not traveled the world. I don't know if that's why I'm so longing to travel, being more active than I am. So these two used my physical magic, the Argos, to happily view the sights of the world every day when they could. Surveillance mana consumption was low, so it was kept up to power. Anyone can simply do it with a change of perspective. It doesn't reflect all the places in the world, but it's a very wide range. But it's certainly true that overuse of magic will make the effect disappear. I'll come along later, give me some quiet until then. Seems like a good lesson to teach them not to make a scene when they have guests. This is the responsibility of being a protector. After all, I wanted to go along with the investigation. No, that's not true, and it's important to reprimand them for the sake of the future. Let's leave it at that. Now I'm busy dealing with Guy, anyway, to get Veldora out of here first, but at the moment. Hey, isn't this Guy? What can I do for Rimuru? Ramirez found Guy. Then came Veldora. Looking happy, Veldora-chan. Yeah, ah? Why is the sister here? I thought you'd grown, but I didn't think you'd be as noisy as ever. Still, it's an amazing gesture to become human. I'm relieved that I've just unsealed myself. Sister, I'm very happy too. The previously joyous atmosphere suddenly shifted and Veldora stiffened and tensed. Velzado looked gentle, but seemed to feel differently to Veldora. I haven't seen you for years. I want to talk to you slowly. No, don't, Sis is busy too, and I have a job too, so I don't have time so. Don't mind. Guy and Lord Rimuru seem to have a long talk ahead of them, so let's, slowly, talk. Miss Velzado deliberately emphasized slowly, completely ignoring the part where Veldora said there is work. Veldora looked to me and asked for help. So I, with a hard nod, told him. Go on. Lord Rimuru, can I borrow the room next to you? Being requested by Miss Velzado with a bright smile, could I refuse? No, I can't. Of course you can. There must be a lot to say, please take your time. That's all I can answer. Farewell, Veldora. We won't forget your bravery. Veldora looked sad after knowing he couldn't expect my help, but his hand tightened on Ramirez with a swift grip. Wait, Master. This has nothing to do with other people, right? Please. Don't leave me alone. Looking at that pitiful figure, I was convinced, Veldora and Sister Velzado don't get along. It looks more like fear than it does about not getting along. Speaking of not getting along with their sister, my former life friends seem to be too. That guy, he's a tyrant. He grumbled with the kind of eyes that looked through the red dust. Even though they're the dragon race, they're similar to humans. By the way, someone took to not getting along with their sister, and the situation was fiercely fought over who was more unfortunate than me, but that was something that had nothing to do with only the brother. It feels like those of them are just half-assed. The same aura was felt from Veldora as from them. I suddenly remembered. From a time when I used to talk to Veldora as if it were nothing, while arguing over travel destinations, Veldora stubbornly opposed the option of going north. He was talking about how it was too cold or something in there, clearly not feeling the cold, and it felt unnatural to me. Come to think of it now, was it the knowledge that Miss Velzado was there? Watching Veldora, who was now grasping the doorframe with a deadly expression, squirming and desperately not wanting to leave, felt more and more pathetic. This may also be my illusion, although I was going to die to avoid getting caught in the crossfire, so I'll help him a little. If not, so be it, so I spoke up. Guy, you guys live further north than the Kingdom of Ingratia, don't you? We live in the coldest place in the world called the Land of Ice. I did not inhibit my magic there and so it became uninhabitable for the creatures. Since Guy hates the weak, he doesn't want to be near them. It wasn't just Guy, but Velzado, who stood up and put her hand on Veldora's shoulder, also turned back to me and replied, I thought it was a good opportunity, and asked again. Could it be said that Miss Velzado's power is cold? Cold air, that's not true, but just looking at the results makes you think that's what it is. I see, then you can't go wrong. It's surprising that Veldora, who is so confident and unafraid of the world, would be able to cope with something he can't. Veldora, you don't get along with Miss Velzado, do you? Saying something stupid. There is no such thing as something I'm not good at. Don't be so strong at a time like this. It's because of you that the damage gets bigger. Right? After all, I've been taking care of him. Velzado said with a smile that didn't have a hint of gloom in it. This way, there was no question that Veldora didn't get along with her. When Veldora-chan made a fuss after he was born, I quickly destroyed and regenerated him. When even after the reincarnation he fooled around, I sealed his movements so that he would be honest, and then gently preached to him, because he's a child who doesn't humanize, who disturbs, who causes too much damage. What if there's no punishment and it becomes more difficult to handle afterwards? Velzado spoke of past deeds with a feeling like she had done something good. It's so hard to listen without tears. There's no doubt that's why. Veldora, you have worked hard. You got it, Rimuru. Do you finally understand me? It will become impossible to get along as a matter of course. No offense, but the substance is awful. This misunderstanding, without discouraging Velzado's self-righteousness, would have kept Veldora alive in fear. Also, Veldora. It became impossible to resist Velzado because of his overweening bravado. If this pretense of strength does not stop, relationships will not develop well. This kind of occasion is supposed to be a dragon relationship, right? Alas, that's irrelevant. Miss Velzado, perhaps I'm being a little nosy, but let me just say that Veldora has an uncomfortable sense of you. Why? In a nutshell, you're overdoing it. Instead of indiscriminately forcing him to listen to you, he should be taught how it is better to do so and let him learn the relationship between good and evil on his own. Even if it's Veldora, it can be listened to if it's said well. So can we stop using violence and just say what we mean? Stay here today if you want. I propose this to Miss Velzado. After a brief silence, Miss Velzado sighed and nodded in affirmation. Great, she seems to have listened carefully to my proposal. Rimuru. That's great, Master. So hurry up and let go. I see. In retrospect, I don't think I've ever heard the idea of Veldora-chan. Let's take this opportunity to talk slowly, shall we? Take your time and talk about that, and it still hasn't changed. I get it. Please be merciful. Veldora also took back his composure, dead set. If only the divide between siblings could disappear like this. This time Veldora did not resist and also went to the next room, but he still had Ramirez in his hands, so let's take that as a no-look. Wait. This really doesn't have anything to do with other people, does it? It was as if such a sound had been heard, but with the door of the room closed it was no longer audible. I took it as an illusion and turned to face the guy who had stayed. After the noisy Veldora pulled them away, the room suddenly became silent. So? Guy muttered. I cooed and gulped, waiting for his next words. That guy from Velzado seems to be taking his time too, so let's stay here today. Got it. In that case, I'll prepare a room for 3, don't worry. On. Why 3? No, aren't you going back? I asked this with the hope that he would go back. However, he easily betrayed my expectations. Don't say anything stupid. What do I have to do with you? I'll take care of you today. So hurry up and let Mizari and Rhine evolve, said the eyes forcefully. Damn it, it's going to go on like this. No, it's a rare opportunity, so take your time next time and enjoy the best service I have for you. So today. You said there was room, right? The conditions of service are minor and I can tolerate them, as long as the room is empty anywhere. I would also like to eat the tempura mentioned before, please prepare it for me. Lose. Since it's all been said and done, there's no excuse for rejection. It's better to expose a very important undercard, but it's better than rejecting it and then generating displeasure. Got it. Then, I'll prepare the rest of the room for you at the highest level. Dinner also answers your expectation to prepare tempura for you. I nodded my head in affirmation, then waved a wink at Shuna. Got it. So, I'll go get ready. After answering with a faint smile, Shuna left the room with a polite curtsy. In lieu, Haruna walked in and stood in the corner of the room without saying anything, waiting for instructions. The movement of feeling her aura like air showed that she was a skilled maid. Mizari and Rhine also showed expressions of admiration, and it seemed that there was no problem with rating it first class. Guy looks very content with the victory against my offense and defense. It's hard to resist, but here's where it has to give up. The moment I thought so, Diablo, who had been silent, opened his mouth. Kufufufu, is that so? You're gonna stay here today, Guy? On. That's right. So it is. Well, then, time is plenty. What are you talking about? It's nothing. I just thought it would be nice. Right? What just happened? I also have a lot of previous topics I'd like to continue to talk about, and you've been very proud of your extreme powers since a long time ago, haven't you? So today, I'd like to hear about it in detail. Oh. Well done, Diablo. Instantly reversing the situation, Guy was pinned down. This opportunity must not be missed. In that case, Diablo, you will take Guy to the inner parlor. Let's just take your time and talk there today. Thank you very much, Lord Raimoru. I can only express my gratitude for your kindness. Diablo put a hand on Guy's shoulder while saying so. Wait. No more waiting, let's go. Guy is unexpectedly bad at being attacked. He was then inexplicably taken away by Diablo. Diablo came in handy in unexpected places. Now that Guy is away, I can use the power with confidence. I don't know when they'll be back, so let's get the ceremony over with. I quickly injected my soul into Masari and Rhine, prompting them to evolve. Notice the number of 100,000 souls that have reached the required amount. The name of the individual, Mizari, begins to evolve, huh? Ooh, so weird. I got 500,000 of them from Guy. Notice the individual named Rhine's evolution, success. The total number of reduced souls is 200,000. Huh? Can a soul evolve even if it has no connection, as long as it qualifies? No. Hey! There were questions before this one. Did you, with 300,000 left, say? Answer. Because mastering the trick requires less than intended. Yeah, well, it's not like that, is it? There's no way to excuse the past when you've got so many souls. Answer. Counting the amount of individual named, Testarossa, Ultima, and Carrera. What have you done? The King of Wisdom is too messy too. It's really heaven and earth. Wasn't that a strong-armed prank on the Demon Lord, Guy Crimson? No, wait a minute. In that case, isn't it me who is resented when exposed? Answer. No problem. No, I'm full of questions. Now I think you're a little too scary. Because of this, it is too scary to be afraid of heaven and earth. Answer. No. It is just that the techniques for manipulating the intelligent subs have increased more than expected, and the rest is paid for.
No, is that okay?
I just feel a little out of place. That's a lot scarier than cheating a gutter hoodlum. There's nothing to be said for being wiped out if exposed. Although I don't sweat and the shaking doesn't show on my face, I'm cold and sweaty inside. It's been a long time since I felt that being a slime is so good. A banquet was held that evening. Guy, though somewhat disgruntled, didn't look for me to complain. More than that, there was even a thank you to me. There are various things I want to say, but I'm already tired today. Evolution also seems to have succeeded, so let me be grateful for that. Guy really showed a very tired expression. Why is that? Diablo is the opposite of Guy, vibrantly alive. It's incredible. Where? The smart thing to do is to leave it alone. I pretended not to notice anything and didn't touch on the subject. He seemed satisfied with his dinner and seemed to be in a better mood after the hot spring. Velzado also seemed to be in a very good mood after chatting with Veldora, and this provisionally prepared reception I think should pass. I'll come back. I'll give you my best. I'm looking forward to it. Because our country is very cold, this thing called hot springs really heals the mind and body. I'm glad you liked it and look forward to your next visit. Geez, what a talker. I'd love to meet Veldora-chan again too, so let me bother slowly next time. The mentioned Veldora was now invisible. To say why, it seems that he and Velzado fought in the labyrinth and became unable to move with his body scaly. Kuaha, kwaha. Tell her I let it go a little this time, and I won't show mercy next time. Are you sure you want to tell her this? I'm sorry. It was as if I heard a very small apology, but I was gentle, so let's just pretend I didn't. But then again, it didn't seem that Miss Velzado was serious. An injury of that magnitude would heal in a few days. On the flip side, it was the first time I had ever seen Veldora injured, and it made me realize once again how powerful the true dragon race is. There is also another sister of Veldora in the Empire. In order to think about countermeasures, the King of Wisdom will have to analyze the battle information between the dragon races later. Guy and the others left behind favorable intelligence and set out on the road home. Let's include this information as a reference and discuss the way forward. Just as I was about to do so, someone came running in a panic. It's Myomal. Oh, Lord Rimuru. You're here, so I can find you. What's going on? What's all the panic? I'll come over if I panic. The big sister is here, let me call Lord Rimuru. Big sister's here. I was taken aback and rushed to it. The destination was a certain hotel in the first-class area, where the big sister always went every time she came. Big sister is a code word that only me and Myomal can understand. That's right, it was only because the person's direct name calling would create problems that she was called Big Sister. That person is the Heavenly Emperor, Elmesia Elul Sarian, of the Sorcery Dynasty of Sarian. Her alias is El from our conspiracy trio. I'm Liam. Myomal is Judd. Miss Elmesia is El. In terms of status, El was first and I was second and Judd was third, and we were all excitedly involved. Since it was El who issued the summons, it was impossible not to rush to participate. However, she should have known that it was now war. Should have told Miss El we're at war, shouldn't we? Of course I've told her. I also heard from she herself that she would come back when the war was over. In fact, Myomal Kun spent more time with Miss Elmesia than I did. In place of me, who was very busy, he maintained various negotiating relationships with Miss Elmesia. Both the light and the dark keep coming and going. Obviously, it's formal diplomatic relations with the Sorcery Dynasty Sarian. In this respect I left it all to Myomal and Rigard. The construction progress, logistic agreements, customs duties, and other rights relations are summarized, as well as the mutual guarantee of the safety of business travelers staying in the other country. The miscellany was repeatedly confirmed to the point of annoyance, before a mutually acceptable condition was finally reached. They struggled to engage in the kind of engagement that would be disorienting. In contrast, we, the scheming trio, were secretly doing something bad that could be described as the best we could do. As bad as it sounds, it's definitely not something that can be complimented on. The content is also true. What's that bad thing? That is, to take control of the newly born giant economic circle. We started out as just 3 drinking buddies. But I don't know when we started talking about business matters, and in retrospect we were already talking about important things about state operations. There is also my fault for being lax-mouthed, but the Myomal Kun who didn't stop me is equally guilty. And it wasn't just me who was ranting, Miss Elmesia had also leaked quite a few secrets. I would have been careless and forgivable. It's all because 3 people get together and drink, and drunkenness is terrible. The relationship is, of course, top secret. This is a secret that only 3 people know. Absolutely. No doubt people would be very angry if such a conversation was exposed. I would then be under the pressure of everyone being speechless, and then Myomal would presumably be blamed for the stomach perforation. Miss Elmesia will no doubt be trolled by Elalude as well. As a result, the unity of the 3 is very strong. This is a friendship that transcends status as a conspiracy trio. To say when we began to build such a relationship in earnest goes back to the time when the battle with the Rosso I triumphed. At the time of the decline of the Rosso, the underground organizations in the Western countries amounted to a state of destruction. The dragon has no head, presenting a scene of a group of masters. Thinking this would not do, I gave the order to Testarossa to keep the peace. While there was no major disruption, the reality of the situation could not be left unattended either. When the police, or should I say, the army, of any country is out of reach, they secretly come to the aid of others. The question then arises as to the disposition of the offender. By saying that the military power of countries is beyond their reach, it means that criminal organizations will retaliate. If not handled properly, it becomes a case of local lords becoming crime bosses and committing crimes in plain sight. Of course, crimes cannot be allowed to go unchecked, but there is a risk of civil unrest if they are forced. Fear of this has led to the inability of the state to intervene and, in most cases, to acquiesce. I was so troubled by this state of affairs that when I met Miss Elmesia, a frequent hotel guest, I finally could not resist complaining to her, "I wish you'd say something happier to me." Miss Elmesia was like this at first and didn't want to talk with me. However, while listening to my narrative, I gradually became preoccupied and reached out to ask me to elaborate. What I have stated is not only to my advantage, but to Miss Elmesia's as well. In fact, to get her interested, I said a lot of dream-like things. The economy and crime are inextricably linked. Too much disparity between the rich and the poor creates contradictions and can even have an impact on governing the country. Criminal organizations that absorb the poor become stronger and are likely to become the cause of national unrest. Myomal Kun turned out to be a member of the underworld as well. Having experienced it firsthand, he understood my instructions. It is important to prepare institutions that take in the poor. In order for them to stay out of crime, no matter how down on their luck, the key is to be prepared for a job that anyone can do. Usually it's the military or something. The jobs in the army are varied and there is often a demand for talent, but even this cannot be met if the country is poor. So, we began to back it up in secret. First, create a criminal organization. By absorbing the nation's defeated organizations, the embryonic form is now complete. The organizations that haven't been absorbed yet, I'll have them all in the net by then. I tell the story of my one-liner with a bit of booze. But this success attracted the interest of Miss Elmesia. So it is. There is no organization in the Western countries that can counter the secret association of the Big Three. I guess as long as one can secure clothing, food and shelter, there will be a lot of people loyal to the organization. To Elmesia, who had so far been uninterested, the next statement became a key hand in attracting interest. Right? In this way, the poor are taken care of while the rich are being taken care of. Oh? Now that Granbell is dead, the Rosso are bound to decline. Organizations that have strength left now will also eventually weaken. My plan is to make a move to take his place. Plan? Let me hear it. That's the thing. As previously mentioned, The Kingdom of Blumond has a program to make the function of an industrial agglomeration city. And the Lord Fitz is also making preparations, and the work of collecting people is also in progress. I have also discussed this general idea with Mile, and it is important to reconcile the interests of the surrounding countries in order to develop together. For example, industry in the Dwarven Kingdom, agriculture in the Kingdom of Farminas, and the Sarian dynasty is also industry, right? It was necessary to adjust for the great controversy, and then to allow industry to flow into the Kingdom of Blumond, with Blumond as the window to spread to the Western nations. Eleliud Chan reported that too. Are you really going to implement that plan? Of course, right? So, where does his interest in you come from? Benefits and whatnot are secondary. Oh? I'm kidding. We are what we are. Master the core technology and then disseminate it. For example, to build a university campus city to see if it can absorb the best students from different countries. Ostensibly centered on the founding of the country by tourism, it's sneaking around behind the scenes. Whoa. Patents. Money floats in without working, fantastic system. Although the concept itself is understood, it is still difficult to make it known. So it is. Develop products that can't be made without using that technology and ensure intellectual property rights. That's very perceptive. It's good to understand so quickly, but don't imitate. First come, first served, right? That's a lie. I'm not imitating, but let me have a piece of it. Whoa. If Big Sister comes to help, it will be a success. Geez, Judd Chan really. While that's true, the compliment is overblown. The reception was thus lively. Then the next day, the three reflected on how much they had said and met again. That, about yesterday's words. Well, remember. You've told me everything you can't say, haven't you? Well. Also, please keep it a secret. The words that are planned to be destroyed here. Geez, don't worry about that, Judd Chan. I'll keep my promise even though I'm speaking in the spirit of alcohol. And just like that, we were united by the failure of drunken talk. From there we began to move the program forward gradually. It went very well because there were two heads of superpowers. We used the amazing momentum of the Western domination under the water. After only a few months, the criminal organization was unified, and this was the birth of the secret association, the Three Drunk Sages. The members of the group are very worried about the origin of the name Three Drunk Sages, but we don't care that much. It's also a bit off the mark, so let's leave it at that. More than that, the gist is the status of how the plan is going. The oppressed poor people of all countries joined the mysterious secret society of Three Drunk Sages, which was established as a new force. Then, after a month-long acclimatization check, people do their best to sort. If one is judged to be very good, one is recruited to our country for formal study. I put this troublesome task hard on Glenda Atori. She was one of the original three martial sages. And now works for Sue. Since she says she'll do whatever dirty work it takes, let's give me a decent role as the boss of the synagogue. Gerard, who had been the head of the Green Apostles of the Mercenary Regiment, and Anya, an elven warlock under him, served under Glenda. These two had been active in all Western countries and were very good at leading a group of reckless men. The popularity is high among those who are active in the shadows, so give me a hand in supporting Glenda. Everyone seems to think that Three Drunk Sages refers to these three. It actually refers to three drunks, but they misunderstood that drunken life and death is handsome, so let the truth be buried in the heart. That's the underground part. Next, it's about the organizations that are active on the surface. If given to just one organization, sooner or later it will become a hotbed of corruption. To avoid this, it is better to build confrontational organizations. Based on this idea, two organizations were created. The first was the fledgling organization led by Lord Mile. This organization has as its axis practitioners educated in the Kingdom of Bloomond, with links to the council and commercial activities. The official name is the Four Nations Business Alliance. With the Jura Tempest Federation as the head, the Kingdom of Bloomond, the Kingdom of Farminas, and the Kingdom of the Dwarves as the affiliated countries. Because the representative is Myomal Kun, one look and you knew I was involved. The second one was the Western Chambers of Commerce Union, in which Miss Elmesia had secretly intervened. The Doran king of the kingdom financed it and carried the banner to absorb the survivors of the Rosso clan. Mainly concentrated on those who were very hostile to us, a greater force than could be imagined was born. This organization is called Western General Chamber of Commerce. The representative was the son of King Doran, and seemed to be an excellent person who had inherited the blood of Rosso. Only King Doran and his son, Prince Figaro Rosso Doran, knew of the involvement of Miss Elmesia. Participation in our program in exchange for accepting Elmesia's asylum. The Rosso cannot survive without converting to a flexible way of thinking. Since the Demon Lord, who will become the world's overlord, has joined forces with the Heavenly Emperor, who has great influence in the world, it would mean our demise if we did not participate. Upon hearing this plan, the first thing King Doran said seemed to be this. The Rosso clan valued the covenant and could be trusted to maintain the relationship for as long as it took to fulfill it mutually. By the way, Ms. Elmesia's and my holdings add up to 61% of the Western General Chamber of Commerce. Since the majority shareholder is Miss Elmesia, when Figaro betrays, it means the destruction of the merchant society. I think a good man like Figaro would not have made that stupid choice. Miss Elmesia said so. I also agree with this opinion, and so currently choose to trust Figaro and appoint him as chairman. With that, both organizations began their activities simultaneously. On a clear level, the two organizations are hostile. Price competition in circulation, is sound competition conducted within a legal framework without the intervention of force. Some of them are also despicable people who try to compete using the underground, but for some reason they have been hit hard. I received such a report from the three drunk sages that something unbelievable had happened. We don't deliberately try to stop it, but hopefully they understand that overdoing it will cause misfortune. As sad as it is for people who use excessive tactics, both organizations are very energetic and growing beyond my expectations. After only a few months, the structure of the organization seems to have settled down. The division of posts was refined in the various departments, and the classes settled down. I heard that just now, when we were attacked by the Empire, they also became rich by sending war money. Even if the merchant spirits are flourishing, there must be a degree, but the profits they make will also return to me, which can only be described as a necessary evil. I think the idea that just obeying regulation on everything is fine, no matter what, is wrong. I'll think even more so this time when I can profit from it too. Presumably, this is the feeling that control of the economic circle is gradually moving towards completion. The fact that Miss Elmesia had come first without a reservation undoubtedly meant that an emergency had occurred. Is it imaginable that Prince Figaro's betrayal unfolded in this way? Countermeasures for this situation have been discussed, but the shares that I hold need to be taken out. If so, one can understand why Miss Elmesia came over. Upon arrival at the hotel, Myomal took me directly to the other house where Miss Elmesia was. Long time no see. What's the matter today, Miss L? In short, superfluous speculation is not necessary. Better to hear what's going on from me. Miss Elmesia didn't seem too happy about it. She made no secret of her melancholy and looked at me with contemptuous eyes. Huh? Feeling bad? Of course not. Do you really understand what you've done? Oops. She seems pretty pissed off, huh? And it seems that it has nothing to do with three drunk sages. How? Sit down. Ah, yes. It was not a good idea to annoy Miss Elmesia, who was staring at me, so I sat honestly on the tatami mat. Myomal Khan is also sitting next to me. Unlike me, he seemed to have a hard time. Is it true, Rimuru, that you let a few of your men evolve? Why do you know this? I immediately squinted at Myomal-kun, taking eye contact, but he desperately shook his head to indicate he didn't know. In that case, where did this leak come from? I received an urgent message from Gazelle. He was troubled to say or not to say it, but in the end thought it should be communicated. What a rule that boy has. In Miss Elmesia's opinion, Gazelle the old man was just a kid too. But so? Actually, I didn't plan to hide it, so it wasn't something that should have surprised me, but the speed with which the information was conveyed still surprised me. Since the Eastern Empire is more difficult than I thought, I wanted to give everyone a reinforcement. Then, I thought it was bad to hide it, so I entertained Granny Jane. Really? So it's true. Miss Elmesia stood up and looked out the window with her back to me. Her back drifted sadly, somehow a little bleak. Hey, why are you nodding like it's none of your business? Miss Elmesia took out a fan and slapped me on the head with lightning speed. No, I didn't mean it that way. I was clearly just trying to make the heavy atmosphere cheerful. What are you trying to do with all that power? Hey, it's no big deal. Just trying to build a country where we can live happily. That's what I heard from Gazelle. You're taking in the other primordials, too, besides Diablo? Ah, didn't I say that? I was also shocked when I found out recently. Elle knows about Testarossa too, doesn't she? I think she's very good, and it turns out she's also a primordial. The other two, named Carrera and Ultima, serve as the head of the country's highest tribunal and the Attorney General. Miss Elmesia's body began to tremble as she listened to my instructions. Is that also true? After muttering like this, Elmesia sat down squarely in front of me and stared at me, then bluntly asked the question. Do you want to destroy the world? How? That's all people around here can think when they see this. Reprimanded. I panicked and started making excuses. Myomal-kun also came to support, and then engaged in a 30-minute discourse. That is to say, Guy and Rudra are playing a game of pawns with their own pieces in order to have a showdown? That's how it is. Is that right, Judd? No, I'm very sorry I don't know the details, but until then, in any case, isn't that something I shouldn't be hearing? It shouldn't be, but it can't be helped, can it? I really want to complain if I can't finish the show without a word. It will be very hard for me. Yeah. Totally caught up in it. Really, I'm sorry. But I am sure that with my relationship with Lord Myomal, I will be forgiven. Things I already understand. If you're threatened by Guy, you can't refuse. Yeah, that's it. Me, threatened by Guy, let's call it what it is, right? I'm having a hard time because of these reasons, too. The tone of my speech is all affected by Lord Myomal, but here it's muddled through no matter what. Miss Elmesia let out a sigh, as if to quell the anger and retrieve the calm. So, what are you going to do? What do you mean? You're not the kind of guy who'd be willing to be a pawn of Guy, are you? No, I'm willing. Why? Geez, I've thought about that. Miss Elmesia couldn't seem to understand what I was thinking. So, I spoke frankly to her about what I thought. The Empire does have a lot of strong men of unknown strength, and choosing to avoid combat at this point is one way to do it, but I think it's just putting the issue on the back burner. In doing so, I would have to be on constant alert for assassins from the Empire, living in hiding. Skirmishes with assassins will also occur, and even if one is careful not to make mistakes, there will likely be casualties. To keep things from going the way they are, this side has to take the initiative. Originally, war was a rite of passage for the Empire to give birth to the Awakened One. Under this approach, we will always face threats from the other side. So I think that to choose to ignore it now is to give the other person time to think. That's my judgment. It was precisely because the numbers were meaningless that I was going to just barge in with the main force and make peace face to face. Just take care of Rudra's pawns there, and after that Guy should do something about it. Guy is not to be relied upon, in fact I didn't expect much from him. So, the next question is who to take over. Lord Rimuru, is that all right? Hey, Mr. Myomile. Who do you think I am? Don't look at me like that. I'm part of the 8-star demon lords, too, right? Neither the Emperor nor his near guards are my match. Yes. You are a goddess to me. Goddess? This guy still sees me in that light? He caught me staring at him and scrambled to change his story. No, it's the reliable demon lord. Oh. Well, leave it to me. Ha. Whoa. We laughed out loud. As nice as it is to say, if things get bad, run back. It is useless to be too complicated now. Ho! Are you trying to disintegrate Emperor Rudra's men, or are you trying to kill them? Can you tell me how you feel about that? Asking questions premised on my victory kinda bothers me too, but about that for sure. Trying not to kill. Judging by the game's winning conditions, the moment that makes someone other than Rudra incapacitated is the moment that guy wins. After that, I guess, it's not something I can interfere with. Hearing me reply like this, Miss Elmesia nodded contentedly. Got it. Then don't let me down, give it your all. If there's a silver lining, I'll take care of your country, just rest assured. Stop it. Don't say such unlucky things. Don't worry. I hate self-sacrifice. My motto is to live happily together, so I have no intention of dying. Miss Elmesia smiled with great pleasure when she heard me reply like this. That's good. Remember, if you die, the world will come to an end. You're the only one who can tame the primordial demons, led by Diablo. The demons you prompted to be born don't always agree either. If confrontation occurs, war will inevitably arise. Got it? Don't give up on what you want to do, and don't forget it. This is advice from the heart of Miss Elmesia. I know, really. So I also swore with a serious look on my face. The game goes to the endgame. One more count and our victory will be determined. But at this point, if you make one wrong move, you could lose it all. One must be calm and deliberate. First get in touch with Yuki to discuss how to deal with Emperor Rudra. So, the next day, we embarked on a journey to the Empire. Intermission 2, the game in the sky. This is the record of the war. A heavenly game that has lasted for a long time. Betting on the hegemony of the ground, the Demon Lord and the hero go head-to-head, however. For Veilgrind, the Scorched Dragon, such a game would be tasteless. With her lack of excitement, it didn't matter which side won. There was no need to add so much to the picture, just use the battle to decide the winner. She even had that in mind. When all is said and done, there have been many direct fights between Guy and Rudra that still haven't come to fruition. So at the beginning of this game, the only rule was no direct matchups. Complaining didn't help, and as far as Veilgrind was concerned, she was very upset. Originally, to speak from the heart, she thought the contest was a disadvantage. Of the pawns available to Guy, the only one who can take down Rudra is Velzado, and conversely, just figuring out how to take Velzado down means victory. The same is true for Guy. Enough to take down Guy's character, none other than Veilgrind. But instead Veilgrind thought it would be hard to defeat Guy. The fact that Velzado exists to take down Rudra, while being no match for Guy himself, is the reason why Veilgrind sees this game as a disadvantage. Alas, what a pain in the ass. This is true. Veilgrind, who hated the use of stratagems, was very bad at such meticulous actions that required centuries of preparation. So she dumped it all on Rudra and simply obeyed him herself. Even if that was the case, if Rudra was eager for victory, Veilgrind would not begrudge his assistance, intending to join the fight herself as soon as she was asked. It's going to take a lot of work to get Velzado and thus secure the victory. Guy is undoubtedly the strongest demon lord, and her sister Velzado, the white ice dragon, is also very unpleasant to Veelgrind. She was an opponent like a natural enemy, and it was very difficult to win head-on. If Velzado fought Veelgrind, it would have been a good outcome, or Veelgrind would have been forced to reincarnate. No, it's not even an optimistic speculation. Veelgrind's attribute is heat. By contrast, Velzado's attribute is ice. In other words, acceleration and deceleration are diametrically opposed. If the two sides really went all out, it would end badly. Neither side will survive and both sides will be beaten down. That is, the likelihood of the two being wiped out together is high. In this case, the two will reincarnate together, but the present-day self will disappear. Even if the memory can be inherited, they will become another person. Veelgrind cringed at this. It didn't matter if she disappeared, but she didn't want her love for Rudra to go down the drain. Such an insignificant affection as love, and yet so obsessed with it, Veelgrind couldn't help but laugh at herself. The premise of the so-called complete victory is that both herself and Rudra must be safe. That's why insurance is needed, but this one is badly disposed of and hurts. Really, that kid is a pain in the ass. Luck seems to have lifted the seal, but why didn't you even bother to say hello? Not realizing that he was afraid of his own, Veelgrind was resentful of the so-called insurance Veldora. If it was the Veldora that Veelgrind knew well, he would have been scattering all over the world a long time ago. But now he didn't know what he was thinking and became very close to the newly promoted Demon Lord. Hearing that he had even attended the feast of the Demon Lords had made her even wonder if he had broken his brain because of the seal. Even so, if it was Veldora, who was a keen ritualist, facing an army of millions, she didn't think he would keep quiet. So she deduced that Veldora would definitely show up, which turned out to be unexpected. He remained hidden in the depths of the maze and did not show himself. This was beyond what Veelgrind had expected. Originally, the kid was supposed to be my style, but why not show up this time? As was the case on the last expedition, Veldora was disgusted that his domain had been violated. So as long as one invaded the great forest of Jura, one could not avoid an encounter battle with Veldora. And that's exactly what Rudra was expecting. What matters to Rudra is not the elite legions, but the individuals who go beyond their limits. There were also several survivors who completed the evolution last time. Surrounded by resentment, fear, and despair. Only by not losing hope in the midst of such a limiting situation can the chains of being human beings be broken and reach the higher realms. Even if 1,000,000 armies were to be wiped out in the literal sense of the word, just a few awakenings would be enough to make it worthwhile. This was Rudra's idea, and Veelgrind agreed. It is also full of energy to make the chiefs of the army misunderstand, without having the Intelligence Bureau disclose more detailed information. As far as Veelgrind is concerned, the army chiefs are hilariously confident. It is highly unlikely that this operation will progress smoothly. It could even be said not at all. An army that has only been fortified by science is not going to defeat Veldora. So this time, there must have been a mass death as well. However, it is closely tied to hope. There will be a few people who survive and complete the awakening this time around. The more characters who are able to become recipients of Rudra's vessel of power, the higher the win rate. I'm really looking forward to it. Veelgrind, who had such a thoughtful mind, was speechless when she learned of the unexpected outcome of the expedition. All gone. Humph, I am shocked, are you too? It's been a long time since I've seen that look. Please don't joke. With not a single survivor, this kind of defeat was too unexpected by any means. In that case, this purpose of acquiring the awakened one has also failed, hasn't it? Let the generals accumulate as much experience as possible, and at the very least, cultivate a strong man of the near-guard knight level. The birth of the awakened from among them again is the hidden purpose of this expedition. However, there were no survivors at all. It's not as good as being wiped out by Veldora, a situation where you can't even say such a thing. Experiencing the desperation of making contact with the tip of the world's most powerful force, and surviving it, makes human evolution more likely. An expedition was organized for this purpose, and it would have been meaningless without the survivors. Even the several near-guard knights mixed in were nowhere to be seen. This is tantamount to simply consuming valuable pieces, which can be costly. Well, it's gonna be. Rudra's response was calm as usual. Veelgrind was upset about this, but when she saw Rudra's eyes, the anger dissipated. In his eyes there was a very strong resentment. Rudra and herself harbored the same feelings, and Veelgrind reacted. That's why she switched minds. Despite the loss of a legion, it didn't matter at all to Veelgrind. It would naturally be best if an awakened one could be born, but even that failure would not be a problem. Only that the very existence that caused it to happen no longer justifies ignoring it. If you can literally wipe out 1,000,000 Imperial troops, you can't underestimate the power of the other side. Who is responsible for this situation must be brought to light. So this time it's that kid's doing too? After retrieving her composure, Veelgrind snapped so. Veelgrind was completely oblivious to Veldora's fuming breath. However, there had been previous reports that Veldora had wiped out 20,000 of the Farmus Kingdom's army. At that time, detailed intelligence was not available due to the intelligence agency's lack of access, but this time it was different. The whole picture should be in hand and will no doubt be reported to Veelgrind, who is the marshal. The reason Rudra was able to know first was because of his power. So Veelgrind awaited Rudra's answer with great trust. As predicted by Veelgrind, it's incredible that a brother who likes to make a scene would let the opportunity to get aggressive go. If 1,000,000 troops attacked, she expected that Veldora would definitely show up. At that point, it would be possible to observe the power of Veldora. Following her thoughts, this should confirm whether or not Veldora could do enough to control the demonic aura to even make himself imperceptible. Veldora's growth has been a welcome thing for Veelgrind. Though a foolish brother, he was also a lovable presence in the eyes of Veelgrind. Only, again, he does get tricky. Can't let him join Guy's side, must make him a companion anyway. Veelgrind harbored such thoughts, and from time to time intended them. Getting to grips with how much Veldora has grown is an important thing for Veelgrind. However, it was not to be. That's not true, and what's even more surprising is that I am unable to grasp the details of the situation. Rudra told Veelgrind everything he knew. Beginning with the great defeat of the initial battle, to the failure to return the troops who broke into the labyrinth, and the final sweep of things by great magic. Add to that the awakening of Kalgurio and the end of the war. It's hard to imagine how the Mecha Legion was defeated, but the facts are there. Foolish, isn't it? Yet it is true. The remaining 4 pillars of the primordials are all on the side of the demon Lord Rimuru. If those demons go on a rampage together, there will be no chance of your brother making an appearance. The balance of the game has been upset. In that case, Guy would be bitter too, right? Or, is it just what he wants? Maybe. If that's Guy's intention, I can only admit that it puts the battle at an overwhelming disadvantage. Rudra said with a bitter smile. Spending long years building up war strength and preparing for the best possible time. Don't be impatient, don't try to be strong, and fight steadily. However, there was a figure who could gather a fighting power beyond imagination in a matter of moments. He's a tiny being who doesn't see himself as a rising star Rimuru. Now, we can only agree. While thinking like this, Veelgrind secretly lit up the fight. Then again, the thing you can't grasp is what's going on inside the maze? Oh, exactly. It's a great pity that the remaining power isn't enough to break Ramiri's power. Upon hearing this answer, Veelgrind was also able to accept it. Labyrinth Fairy Ramires is an inviolable being. As a referee of the game, she's less reliable, but there's no doubt she won't come in and stir things up. That's right, so far. This time it was already full on the Demon Lord Rimuru side. It has nothing to do with the game between Guy, just defending against the empire that attacked the great forest of Jura. The power of Ramiris herself was nothing major, it could almost be ignored, and Vielgrind didn't think she could make an impact on the game. However, her power, labyrinth creation, had the effect of separating the intelligence on the outside from the inside. The power was slightly troubling, and the urge to smack lips arose in Vielgrind's heart. Ramiris must have lost enough of her power to be a mediator, right? Yes, it is. Thinking she wasn't a threat, she was put aside, but that guy's maze had always been the best place to hide secrets. Until now, I had been looking through the eyes of Bonnie and Jew. Suddenly you can't see? Rudra responded to that query with a nod. This is a ploy to make me careless, right? So it is. It's really a lot trickier to say that than one might think. Vielgrind understood how profound the situation was. That is, there is no way to understand what is going on inside the maze at the moment. Normally one would think it was Veldora who did something, but Vielgrind didn't think so. The problem is that there seem to be several more powerful people lurking in the maze. Although the strongest of them is your brother, how far has he been tamed by that newcomer? I don't think he's going to do what he's told, as far as the boy's character is concerned. Not to mention whether or not you can do it, something like using skill to bind him would be impossible in my opinion. Although it was heard that he was assisting the Demon Lord Rimuru, Veldora was not a character to be left at the mercy of others. Even the words of Vielgrind or another sister, Velzado, would have been defiant, so it could be assumed that there was no doubt that he would not have succumbed to strength. In this way, does it seem that Rimuru the Demon Lord has prepared something that will make Veldora do what he says? Thinking about it, Vielgrind began to try to imagine what it would be like. However, she was clueless. If something like that really existed, it wouldn't have to be as laborious as it has been so far. Why don't you just ask the Demon Lord Rimuru? Eventually Vielgrind gave up thinking. We'll have to ask from my own mouth. Hearing Vielgrind's muttered words, Rudra burst out laughing. Well, that's right. It's very gratifying to have come to the same conclusion as me. The Demon Lord named Rimuru is no longer dispensable to the two. Considering the means by which he had taken the primordial, and the fact that he did not know what he was doing, it would not have been wrong to assume that Veldora was taking him at his word. That being the case, she made the judgment that it was necessary for him to fall from Guy's side. Now is the perfect time to make a move. The more our ploy fails now, the more careless Guy will be. A patient demon like Guy must have thought we'd have to wait for the next opportunity. Indeed it is. So far it's all been a deliberate move to never take a chance. It's not a bad thing to act here in one breath, putting aside your hesitation. Vielgrind cheered. Rudra is determined to take on Guy. The period of hibernation is over. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Vielgrind will move in and control Veldora with one breath. And ride this momentum to defeat the newly raised Demon Lord named Rimuru, leading to a full-scale showdown with Guy. Oh, leave it to me. All you have to do is pick up the pieces after I've made my mark. I believe you, Rudra. That's natural. Whatever happens after that, as long as it takes Veldora under our wing. I also came up with an interesting strategy, something that was enough to offset this lapse. Even the very tricky primordial is no match for the true dragon Vielgrind if she fights head-on. It would be a lot of trouble if they messed up afterwards, so if they didn't listen, they should clean up together. Seems like there are other things that would be a problem, but as long as I'm personally involved, it's all right. Vielgrind was so full of confidence. As a warm-up, how about a blood ritual for those fools? The disobedient people of Rudra are arrogantly gathering. Although they have been at large until now, they can only go so far. The Emperor had no choice but to die for the foolish man who planned the coup. Vielgrind uttered so while thinking so, but Rudra smiled and shook his head. Then, the unexpected answer came from his mouth. Don't kill these people, keep them alive. Ha, what a surprise. I thought if I had been as gentle as you, I would have given them a death without pain. No, they are a necessity in our scheme. In order to get Guy's attention, another big fight must be started here. That's Kondo's style. The idea of taking advantage of a betrayer is something I would not have expected. Is it not to your liking? It is true, however, that Tatsuya's plan can hardly be called humane. But the reasonableness is unquestionable. Veilgrind nodded vaguely at Rudra, who had said so. Even how cruel the plan was would not have mattered to Veilgrind at all. She was merely trying to give them a taste of heaven's wrath with her own hands. Veilgrind loved Rudra, but that didn't mean she liked other humans too. It wasn't disgusting to say the least, nor was she trying to exterminate them, she just couldn't forgive people who did things like betray Rudra.
Well, okay.
Since you can come in handy for Rudra, let's spare your little lives. After accepting it like that, Veilgrind urged him on down the line. So, what's Kondo's plan? It's a long story, and it's important to look at the current battle plan before you do that. Upon hearing this, Veilgrind immediately understood Rudra's intentions. Well, yeah. There's no point in fighting on two fronts now. Exactly. So withdraw the battle first and delay the attack on Ruminers. As long as you and I can persuade Veldora to come to our aid, whatever happens after that. Just in case anyone messes with it, recall Gladim and them. Can I give it to you? Well, that's natural. So let's quell the rebellion and move on to the capture of Dworgen. Just do that and you'll confuse Guy. The conversation ended in a conspiracy between the two. Veilgrind rose to her feet. This was her time to get real again after thousands of years. And so it was, the tragedy called the Purge of Red Lotus was brought to a close. Chapter 3. Imperial Capital Chaos. The darkness in Tiju was deep. Thanks to scientific civilization, the neatly arranged streets of the imperial city are illuminated by gas streetlights. Even so, there are still back streets that people can't see. Even for a continuously developing imperial capital, it was still a long way to go before the darkness was completely expelled. In the darkness of the imperial capital, Misha walked silently. This darkness is where Misha was born and raised. Instead of fear, there is a sense of peace of mind and comfort. That is, the female named Misha. In the days following Yuki's report, Misha lurked and hid while busy preparing for the coup. Currently, the Imperial Army is on an expedition. In such a situation, it would be very dangerous for Misha to go out as an entourage member. The death penalty would be imposed if they were considered to be fleeing in advance, which in fact they are. However, Misha appeared to be a straight face with no fear in her face. From Misha's attitude, it could be clearly seen that she was confident that she knew the darkness of the imperial capital like the back of her hand. After all, Misha was mostly engaged in behind-the-scenes work and had excellent fighting skills. While not as good as Vega and Damrata, Misha's ability to use her mind is the real deal. Intelligence gathering is her forte, and she boasts of being able to outsmart the dark ministry of the Kingdom of Dworgen and the spies of Blumund. It was because of this that Misha felt able to completely hide it from the Imperial Intelligence Agency. In fact, surviving in the Empire to this day is her tangible result. As usual, Misha walks towards her destination. But to do so seems like a defeat. Although Misha hadn't been careless, a man appeared to block the way. The man's name was Tatsuya Kondo. He is a member of the Imperial Intelligence Service and is known as the intelligence-feeding weirdo. Although not revealed, Damrada's true identity is feared to be the head of the Imperial Emperor's Order of the Near Guard. At the very least, an opponent that Misha could never beat. "Where are you going in the middle of the night?" Kondo's icy voice rang out. Misha inwardly smacked her lips and answered with a smile on her face. "Aha! It's Lieutenant Kondo. Lieutenant Kondo is the only one. Are you still working this late?" Regardless of what was inside first, Misha made an unhurried counterattack on the surface. However, the current situation is undoubtedly the worst. In this huge imperial capital, it's surprising to find such a remote place to stab. No wonder he's a weirdo. The fight is not won, and the guards can't even buy time. Kondo, who suddenly appeared in front of her, seemed to be acting alone. But even that wasn't promising, and Misha struggled to find a way to escape the occasion. "You're a staff officer with the head of the Kalgurio army, aren't you, Misha? Why return to the imperial capital during a combat operation?" In an extremely serious tone, Kondo asked Misha. "You scared me, Lieutenant Kondo. In fact, I returned to the imperial capital on the secret order of Sir Kalgurio." "Anyway, let's just muddle through," Misha replied like this. At the same time, look around without care. The narrow alley was silent. That's a good thing, but the problem is that the escort's breath is gone too. Has he been disposed of? I didn't even notice the aura of battle. What a difference in strength there is. Just for a moment, Misha grasped the situation. Even without having met directly, it was impossible for Kondo not to know Misha. It wasn't clear how Kondo felt about Misha, but it would undoubtedly be difficult to break through this scene with just flowery words. Without much nonsense to dispose of the escort, it should be safe to assume that the deception is no longer working. So judgmental was Misha, who decided to ask for help from Damrada, who was scheduled to meet. Suddenly, a nasty thought crossed her mind. Why is my position exposed? Although Lord Yuki decided to trust Damrada, but is he really trustworthy? The place of the appointment was designated by Damrada, and today's consultation was on the preparation of the liaison on the contents of tomorrow's confidential meeting with Demon Lord Rimuru. Not good. This is too bad. There is a possibility of betrayal in Damrada. No, don't think that. Not to mention the judgment of Lord Yuki, I also have a kindness for Damrada. Misha and Damrada had a long correspondence of over 20 years. As a fellow leader of the Big Three, the leader of the secret society, Misha knows Damrada better than Yuki. It was because of this that Misha was even more confused. Damrada was a calm and sensible man, and judging by the information that came out of his mouth, one could assume that there was no reason to betray Misha and them. It wasn't that she wanted to believe that, but rather, she listened to Yuki's instructions before she approved. In that case, now is not the time to be confused, but to trust the companions even in the end. Misha settled her mind and stared at Kondo. "Thank you, Great Majesty Rudra, for allowing me the good fortune to meet you here." "Oh? Lieutenant, right? Dispose of those who are hunting me. It would be difficult for me to deal with so many opponents on my own." "I see. You want to go on like this? Ara, am I under suspicion? I came back from that hell desperately in order to convey the information in my hands." Misha continues to perform dutifully. She flirtatiously approached Kondo and leaned into his arms. Misha's best trick is to use her womanly charm to enchant men. The specific method of implementation is to influence the other party's thinking through the use of the perfume spell and the illusionary magic charmed at the same time, and to stimulate the other party's instincts while hindering thinking, and eventually make him a captive of Misha. And then increase their dependence on Misha by overlapping their bodies and minds more deeply. In this way, it is tantamount to dominating the other party. With a couple of clinches in the clinch with Kalgurio, it's reached the stage where it's not even close to completing the cage. Not only Kalgurio, but many men fell for Misha's trick. For Misha, who is undefeated so far, that's the strongest ace. Even an opponent who is far from superior in strength will fall in the face of carnal lust. So convinced, Misha wrapped her soft hands around Kondo, pressing her ample chest against Kondo's, showing off her charm, then peeking at Kondo's reaction. Suddenly, Kondo's breath went slack. Misha faintly smiled. "Oh, great. It looks hardcore, but Kondo is a man too. The effect is better than expected, in which case there's always a way. Nah, let's go somewhere better. A quieter room than this one, Huh? Bringing her lips close to Kondo's ear, she murmured softly. In response, Kondo's right hand moved, and Misha heard him mutter a "got it." It seems to work. The best result is to rendezvous with Damrada at the destination. If not, find a way to make him my prisoner by the skin of my hand. It was the last thought in Misha's mind. There was a crisp bang. Misha fell limp, bright red blood spilling from the left side of her head, soaking the ground. In Kondo's hand, he held the large Southern-style automatic pistol that he had drawn at an unknown time, and by looking at the nitrous smoke coming from the muzzle, he knew that it was the murderous weapon that pierced Misha's temple. Kondo's expression didn't change, retracting the pistol as if nothing had happened. The intelligence has been extracted. With the unique skill reader, you can read the mind of the contacted person. Whether it was Misha's intentions, or Yuki's attempts, or even the end of an expedition to the Imperial Army. It doesn't take even a second to read the whole thing. Despite reading such a significant piece of information, his expression remained unchanged. Just bored talking to the darkness. Coup d'état, stupid. Are you still going to claim that you didn't betray His Majesty when you did this? In the darkness that should have gone unanswered, a man staggered into view. Instead of answering Kondo's questioning, he approached the fallen Misha.